In today's video, I'm going to show you how to tackle the PMBOK guide, how to make it as simple as can be. This is how you need to be thinking about the PMBOK guide. There is a beginning and there is an end to the processes within the PMBOK guide. The start of the PMBOK guide is known as the Develop Project Charter process. Develop Project Charter. This is where you create the document that authorizes the project, and it gives the project manager the authority to apply resources to the project. I'm going to put a link below to where you can find examples of a project charter, but you got to remember this is the first step in a project. Once the project has been authorized, then you begin to do a bunch of other things. And that's what I'm going to show you today, step by step. When the project charter has been developed, the next thing you should be thinking about as a good project manager is your stakeholders. And the process where we do that is called identify stakeholders. You identify those individuals that could be affected by the project, or those individuals who can affect the project, or those individuals who think that they could be affected by the project. That's exactly what you're doing here. Now, once you've identified the stakeholders that are key, the next thing is you move into planning. So note the dynamic here, the start of the project, this bubble right here. All of this stuff here happens in the initiating process group. This is all initiating, okay? So between initiating and end, there's a bunch of things that happen in between. And I am going to show you today what those things are at a very high level. You see, one of the pet peeves I have going for training anywhere is not knowing the end, not knowing how the big picture looks. I like knowing, all right, where are we going? So I'm going to show you the end right now. I'm going to show you the steps that lead to the end of the PMBOK story. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in between, but ultimately the end of this whole journey is the closure of the project. And we call that close project or phase. You're closing out either a phase in the project or the project as a whole. By the time you get to the close project or phase process, it means the deliverable that you were working on has been accepted by the customer. So there's a step just before closing the project or phase, and I'm going to show you that right over here. This is known as validate scope. And in validate scope, your customer or your end user accepts the deliverable. It's a key step. This is where inspection at the customer level happens. So let's zoom out and take a look at this journey. You've got the beginning, initiating, and then you've got a bunch of things that are going to lead us to the end. Now, the next thing of significance that happens to chunk it up so that you don't have to sweat it is called Develop Project Management Plan. So what happens here is a development of a project management plan. This project management plan contains what we call subsidiary plans. And the subsidiary plans are smaller plans for each area of knowledge. So I'm going to break those down for you real quick. The areas of knowledge that you should be thinking about are the scope management plan, a requirements management plan, There's a lot of them. A schedule management plan, a cost management plan, a quality management plan, a resource management plan, a communications management plan, a risk management plan, a procurement management plan, and last but not least, a stakeholder engagement plan. These tinier plans are what we refer to as subsidiary plans. Okay? So in the develop project management plan process, we are compiling all of these plans. The subsidiary plans are just one part of the project management plan. Also, in this project management plan, we have something we refer to as baselines. So this is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning, because we also need to think about the baselines. So I'm going to put those in here real quick. We also have the following baselines: a scope baseline. Let's do that again. We have a scope baseline, a schedule baseline, a cost baseline, and we have something we call a performance measurement baseline, which is a combination of all of the baselines. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so when we talk about develop project management plan, you're talking about the assembling of all of these plans and baselines. And there's even some other stuff in there that I won't go into for now, but this will take you to the end of this explanation. All right, so you got initiating, you've got the develop project management plan process, which, to be quite honest, encapsulates the idea of planning. Planning is huge. Check out my video on the 49 processes where I cover all of these in detail. I'm going to endeavor to put a link below, or you can just find it on the channel. Okay, when planning is done, and I'm just going to notate that this is a quasi-planning explanation. All right, so this is a quasi-planning explanation. Planning. Okay, planning is encapsulated in this. You got to remember that, okay? All right. So when you're done with your planning, and maybe even before, because there's overlap, there's overlap. You don't have to wait for the entire plan to be done before you do things in executing. This is a very important concept, because part of executing is acquiring resources, developing the team, managing the team. Think about it. How are you going to plan if you don't have a team? Well, we talk about acquiring team members as part of acquire resources, and that happens in executing. So how is that possible? Let me explain that very quickly. When you think about the process groups, you've got initiating, you got planning. There's overlap, right? You got executing. There's overlap. See? There's overlap between these groups. Then, if you think about monitoring and controlling, the monitoring and controlling bubble is all-encompassing. And then you got closing. So think about it like a mass of work that is interconnected and overlapping. Okay? With that explained, we can now go into executing. And I tell you, executing is going to go very quick. Executing. Because what you do in executing is pretty straightforward. This is business as usual for lots of you. In executing, we are directing and managing the project work. This is a big piece of what we do in executing. This integrates everything else. We are directing and managing the project work. We are also managing project knowledge. In other words, lessons learned are being generated and shared and used. We also have the concept of quality audits. This happens in managed quality. Managed quality is where we check the process. We also are involved in managing our team by giving them feedback. We're also involved in managed communications, communicating with stakeholders and the team. We're also involved in implementing risk responses. So as part of planning, we would have come out with responses for the risks that we're encountering. You would implement those responses. You would also, as part of executing, conduct procurements. The big thing here is you're going to select a seller or sellers, depending. And last but not least, we manage our stakeholder engagement. What this means is we are engaging proactively with our stakeholder. This is what happens in executing. All right, that's the big picture. This big picture is meant to help people who want to know where the PMBOK ends quick without spending minutes on end, right? Within 15 minutes, hopefully, I'll send you on your merry way and you'll be done. All right, so you can see we have initiating, planning, executing, and then monitoring and controlling is big. And this is where I'm going to insert something here. And we're going to have a big old box for monitoring and controlling. Validate scope is part of monitoring and controlling. So we're going to sneak this into this box for clarity's sake, right? So validate scope is a piece of monitoring and controlling, but you're going to see how it all unfolds eventually, okay? So let's begin with the very first in monitoring and controlling. The first things you want to be thinking about here are the processes of integration management. So before we even get to validate scope, we have the process called monitor and control project work. And this means you're monitoring and controlling the work of the project. You're integrating it so that everything gels together. Then we have perform, integrated, change, control. What this means is you are intentionally managing change requests that come in. Next, you have control scope, and that means you are intentionally avoiding scope creep and gold plating and other people adding extras that have not been through the right channels. There's nothing wrong in change, but it has to be managed. And if people just want to make change without managing it effectively, that's not good, and you need to stop that. Then we have control schedule. We have control cost, where we're controlling the cost. We have control quality, which is all about checking the product. So in the very beginning, you heard me say something like quality assurance or managed quality is checking the process. But here I'm telling you that control quality is checking the product. So keep that in mind. All right, next after control quality, we have control resources, and this refers only to the physical resources, not the human. We don't use the word control. We don't control humans. Then we have monitor communications. We have monitor risks. We have control procurements. And we have monitor, beg your pardon, monitor stakeholder engagement. Okay. So now you got a pretty firm idea of what this is all about. Let's draw another one around this so that you understand what we're talking about here. All right. So that's monitoring and controlling. And validate scope, as I said in the very beginning, this is where there is the customer inspection. All right, and we're around about 15 minutes, my friends. It's not a bad duration to at least understand the PMBOK guide and its direction. So to round this up, the first thing that happens, project charter is developed, stakeholders are identified. Then we begin working on our project management plan. We use whatever we've got available to begin crafting the plan. There are a few other things that I could mention here, and I probably should mention them. There is a configuration management plan as part of this, and there is a change management plan as part of these plans, my friends. So I really want you to be firmed up on all of these plans that you can have in the world of project management. Then we get into executing. We got all of these things we do. We're banging out the work. We're knocking out product. We're getting whatever we need to get done. Okay, we are executing the plan. And at the same time, you got to remember, as we're executing, we also have, and I should notate this as well, we have monitoring and controlling. I should put that here just so you're aware. I'll just call it MonCon, monitoring and controlling. Okay, where you are doing all of these things. You're doing the overall monitoring and controlling of the project work. You're performing integrated change control. You're doing all this stuff. Validating scope, controlling schedule, the whole 9 yards. And at the end, when all is said and done, you've reached the destination, there's an output of a final report. There's a final transition of the deliverable to the customer. And that is the flow, my friends. I advise you, if you found this to be helpful, hit like so that you can come back to the video, subscribe to the channel so that you can keep watching these videos I put out, and check out my video called the PMBOK Mainline. That also exists to help project managers who are taking this exam, okay? So my friends, that's it. One more link that I would love to show you before we go. I'm going to show you the link to the Center for the Disease Control and Prevention, PMO. It's tinyurl.com/Sigma PMO. That's tinyurl.com/Sigma PMO. I'm going to put that right here so that you can see it and bookmark it right this moment. Let's do that. And let's make it really huge so that you can see it on the screen. That's it, tinyurl.com/Sigma PMO. It is going to take you to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website right here. This website is a treasure trove because it has templates on a lot of the project management outputs that we talk about in the PMBOK guide. And best of all, totally free. Why not use this? You're a taxpayer if you're in the United States living, and even if you're not, hey, it's free. I've shared the link. It's the US government. They've done a brilliant job. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Take it and use it. All right? Another thing I'd like to let you know is if you are looking for training, coaching, and help on your PMP exam journey, you need to go on down to our website because we help people to pass this exam. And not just that, we also help people to have a firm understanding of the content. It's one thing to say you've read this book, or the other books that exist for PMP, but it's another thing for you to internalize the content. So if you're looking for training, coaching where you can be in a live class with others, I highly advise going down to this site I'm showing you. It's Praizion.com or projectmanagementdoctor.com, and check out some of the events that we have going on. We have training happening all the time, all through the year at different levels, books, CDs, and many more to help you. And MP3s, well, we don't really do CDs anymore, but MP3s. And if you haven't subscribed to my free Spotify podcast, do that. You can see it right here. It's the PMP Exam Radio Show. Of course, it's free on Spotify, on Apple, on Amazon, on Google. You can find it everywhere. All right. Well, thank you very much, my friends. I wish you all the very best as you get ready for this exam. You take care, and bye for now.